Well, my name is Bill Keir, and as a little boy, I lived here in the Walnut Creek area. My grandparents were Bud and Ruby Price Dean. The story that I love to tell is that my grandmother then went across the street to check out the Rogers Hotel. It had been a stagecoach stop and fairly popular before the turn of the last century. And she talked to the proprietor. The guy was running it as a lunch counter. She thought this place could be turned around and made into a nice dinner house. So they bought the hotel in April of 1935. My builder grandfather, he poured a concrete porch and put up a sort of a colonial portico, and they opened it as the Colonial Inn. And the next thing you knew, we had a dinner house that was great. Chicken dinner with soup and salad and wine and dessert was 75 cents. Full boat New York steak filet mignon, kicked it up to $1.25. Then, of course, in December of 1941, the war came to the Pacific with the attack on Pearl Harbor, and the pace just picked up enormously. The place was jammed. I mean, it was hard to find a place to lay your head down in the East Bay with all of the military activity. There was a lot of turmoil during the war. People were uprooted, young couples ending up in the hotel. My grandmother, in her memoirs, she recalls how often she would counsel people, young wives. It was common in the day to get married in Chicago or Milwaukee or someplace as the fellow was being shipped out. You know, the honeymoon would be a train trip from Chicago to Oakland. Then the young gal would have to figure out, you know, what she was going to do. Some of those ended up as waitresses in the dining room of the Colonial Inn. And there's been a lot said about the very special time that the Depression and World War II represent. I mean, the Depression was a time of the country pulling together, and the war was a time of people pulling together. There was a kind of a sense of community and helping one another. It was very much a let's get this done and get this over with. My grandfather just happened to catch wind of a guy who at the hotel had been asking whether the folks that owned it might be interested in selling. And so this is 1945. My grandparents, who had paid $20,000 for the hotel, turned around and sold it for $65,000, which they thought was huge economic return. It was in those days. The Rogers Hotel, Colonial Inn, El Cartola, Las Palmas had a good run until it was ultimately replaced. It is now represented on the site by the Mechanics Bank.